Hello, everyone. That's Titus, and I'm Thomas, and this is Everyone is Bad at Magic, where we untap, upkeep, and punt. And today, we're joined by Ya from That's a Good Card podcast. Ya, would you mind giving yourself a little bit of an introduction?
Hi, everybody. My name's Ya. I'm from a podcast called That's a Good Card, a podcast where we talk about good cards you could be playing in your cEDH deck.
Ya and Kyle over at That's a Good Part podcast are cEDH grinders, I think is fair to say. But they also bring a really fun way of discussing cards into the format where they don't focus on anything that's too meta. They really talk about cards that come from all over and maybe are under discussed. And it's a really good place to kind of go and have thought experiments. Would you say that's a fair estimate?
I think so. It's actually kind of interesting for me to hear what other people kind of think about and how they kind of view the show. And like the podcast and the episodes, right? We get everything from just two friends having a conversation that they can see themselves having with their friends when talking about magic. But yeah, at the end of the day, we do try to push people along towards experimenting, right, and keeping the game right a game right at the end of the day fun. Yes, in this format in particular, we want to win, and that's kind of the name of the game. But I think at the end of the day, everybody wants that flair, and everybody has that one pet card. That they just want to share and get somebody else stoked about. Like that's been such a pleasure in terms of starting this thing and talking to people about the show.
Oh, absolutely. I remember the day that we met and I got to talk your ear off about Delivery Moogle for like half an hour. And
Hey, and it worked. We did an episode on it literally later, the like 12 hours later, I think.
yeah, that was a fun day. So we've talked a little bit about your podcast, but are there any other credentials that you would claim as far as a Magic player, yeah?
Ooh, no, not really. I mean, I like the game a lot. I play it to the best of my ability, which is not always like the best. I think that what I bring instead is just some critical analysis, a level head, sometimes kind of balance out Kyle. I think at the end of the day, we're pretty normal folks. Kyle's definitely better, I think, than I am. I'm not like bad per se, but I'm also like, I'm average probably at best. And I think at the end of the day, it's more of just making sure that we both do really kind of give a card or a thought even weight, right? As much as possible. I am incredibly good at playing the other side. I do really enjoy that. But I'm almost too easygoing because I can always see the other side. I can always see that other point. And so, as far as credentials goes toward the game, like I've been playing a long time. I really like it. It's a real passion, and I dive into my passions pretty strongly.
When you say you enjoy playing the other side, is there one side? Do you enjoy being the presenter or the presentee when you're showing off a card?
Um, I'm probably better at being the presentee, but the person presenting the card. Wait, yes, that makes sense. I'm probably better at that than I am sometimes like being the naysayer. It's just not necessarily in my nature. Overall, it's something I have to really kind of think about. But at the same time, I think the show has allowed us to kind of pursue our passion. And there are times where I just have to let my passion for a specific idea or topic kind of like take over, and I'll pursue that pretty well. But at the end of the day, it's trying to just make sure that we present a fairly balanced, as balanced as possible, like a presentation for a card or concept.
Good answer. So, how did That's a Good Card podcast start for you two?
So Kyle and I used to work together. He would say that technically he worked for me because I was managing the rock gym that he and I were both working at. So I hired him, and there was no coercion. There was just like, hey, we're playing Magic in the back offices. Do you want to try it out? In particular, there was a night where we had an like a staff meeting, and a few of us stayed behind after the meeting was done. It was probably the fastest meeting I've ever held because I wanted to get everybody out of there so I could go play cEDH. And Kyle stuck around, and so I think I even sat out. Either myself or another friend sat out, and we let him pilot a Yuriko deck, and so that kind of started that. whole magic connection between him and I. And then he moved away not too long after that, unfortunately. And he and I had started like kind of like started that relationship when we had already talked about like how we can just really vibe well. We had talked about starting a podcast, funny enough, and I think this has been shared before in some more Patreon content. But like we talked about starting something even like a fantasy football podcast together because he's really into it. I played before. I got obsessed with that as well. And to his credit, after he moved away, and I've never really had this happen before, something that surprises some people sometimes. I'm in my 40s now, and it's pretty rare as a person, as a guy in his 40s, to find people that really want to put effort into a relationship, right? And Kyle, here's a guy that was in his late 20s still, and I remember after he moved away, he called me one time on his way from home from work. My wife doesn't even call me unless she absolutely has to, right? Usually it's a text message. And he just wanted to call and chat. And I was like, whoa, that's really cool. Like as we get older, right? As we get busier, it gets harder and harder to even just maintain the relationships with like good friends that you have, right? Especially if they move away to another, like even just a couple of hours away, right? Much less like a
Yeah, a
state or
couple
two.
hours away might as well be Narnia.
Right. And so I would imagine similar to you two, like we just then we're like, hey, let's seriously kind of consider this thing. And so towards the end of 2023, 2024, beginning of like 2024, we were like, let's just do it and give it a try. And so we just got some equipment together and did it as a way to kind of keep in contact and just start talking about magic and to see if people liked it. And here we are. Some people actually kind of like it, and that's always really cool.
Well,
Yeah.
it's an incredibly fun show.
What kind of led you to the show's focus on being like card analysis?
Well, we knew, you know, everybody who starts in this thing kind of they probably think you at the time playing with power was still kind of prominent. Um, Play to win was definitely prominent, and you had all of these content creators in terms of gameplay, right?
Right.
And then I feel like the mind sculptor type of podcasts are fewer and far between in some ways, even though it's kind of like there are a couple channels kind of doing the same thing now, but like kind of analyzing the game as a whole. I don't know if you guys have been playing cEDH long enough to know about like the Into the North, I think was a podcast.
Yeah.
They were one that I really enjoyed. They really tackled really the subjects really interesting and really kind of good food for thought and kind of learning moments. And so he and I thought about we talked about what we wanted to do. He came up with the idea to kind of like go back and forth on a single card. And then we started talking about the name, and it was just like something that we said a lot, right? Everybody says it, and it's kind of been like it sticks out. Like everybody says like, wow, that's a really good card. In the middle of a game when it's like kind of overperforming, and so the concept was pretty quick. We kind of put ourselves into a niche, and we are now really in the competitive EDH scene with no real hope. Like I know Kyle doesn't really want to do casual magic all that much. Like it'd be easier to get him to talk about like Popper than it would be like casual commander. It's a
I
Yeah.
great
do
question, Titus.
I do have a follow-up question in regards to when you started playing with Kyle. It sounds like you were jumping straight into CDH. When did you start playing CDH?
My story is I started him off at cEDH, but like he also knew he had told us like, hey, he had played 60 card pretty competitively back in the day. He knew the meta, like he knows what a meta is. He kind of preferred it, and we had talked also about like being able to proxy, right? And that was something he really latched onto because that's how he got his close friends into it. And like I think literally a week later, he had talked his roommates into doing a proxy order with him, right? Because it was like we can spend a minimal amount of money and play this like really in-depth game. For me, my group started right after, honestly, right at the tail end of the pandemic, and I don't work there anymore. I don't care. So I had, I managed and had keys to this 30,000 square foot building. And coming out of the pandemic, I was like, well, if we're gonna like gather, here's a space that I know we're constantly cleaning. We were following such stringent guidelines to kind of meet what the state needed in order to be open as a gym here in California, that I was like, cool. Like I know this place is going to be clean. Like we have a night cleaning team coming in after that, after we leave. Like the building is tall, open. There are fans. Like here's a space that we can kind of gather like 6 to 8 of us to play Magic. And we actually started off playing draft, right? A little commander. And then we also started drafting, right? I would just buy a box or a friend would buy a box and then we would draft. I think the first set I started really drafting was Kamigawa, which was at this point what, like 3 or 4 years ago, and it was such a great set to come back into for drafting. Right, that was such a good, fun set to draft, in my opinion. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. It was dynamic, but there were bombs, but not like too bad. It was a really fun set, and so we started acquiring cards that way. And then we would draft cards, and I always drafted for commander in mind. I was like, oh, this card is going to be really cool in my Yuriko deck or whatever it was. And so obviously the decks kind of started power creeping, and then like I would spend some money and then somebody else would spend some money. They would do like a pillow fort, and I was like, cool, if I can't attack you, I'm just going to blow you up in your face. And like it was just like this really steady march in power. And I think at the same time we all started watching other content after you move past like more casual games. I started consuming fun, like playing with power, play to win videos. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. Whoa, that's how the stack works. That's when I was like, guys, we have been doing this wrong. And I'd come back to the group and explain, like, hey, watch this video. And like, here it explains what's happening so well. And from there, we slowly moved that way until finally, I think I made a proxy order, and I was like, "Hey, like, give me a file of cards you want, and let's just make this happen." And so we did it, myself and another friend, and then I haven't looked back since. Like, I don't think I've touched casual in since playing with a gentleman named Sam from the Howling Salt Mine. Uh, I played a casual game with him on his mono white Abdel deck, which is I love as a card in a commander. I haven't played casual since 2023 at Vegas.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
That's a
And
very long answer. I'm so sorry, Titus.
oh no, no worries. Appreciate
That's a
it.
great answer.
I was gonna follow up if you still maintained a relationship with Casual or not, but it sounds like you went all in on CDH. But a quick question on that, was there a deck in the beginning that you really started to like gravitate towards when you're beginning in the format?
The first deck I remember buying was, I think I told somebody else a different answer, but I'm pretty sure the very first pre-con I bought was Adrix and Niv, or Adrix and it's like it was a Simic like doubling season, right? If you make one token, you make one plus another. It was a kind of almost like a doubling season. I think that was my very first one, but then I really gravitated towards Prosper Tomebound as a commander. I just really, really liked that. And I remember having a real aha moment of like, whoa, if I play a land, I get my land and a treasure. Like this is really cool. So that kind of cemented like this whole Rakdos Mardu player in me. Like I was just really, really like the idea of like burn, right? I just really like that idea. That was the very first one I liked. And then so I think from there into CDH, Yuriko was like a real easy kind of transition because it was a similar idea, right? But it also provided a pretty clean win if you wanted to go that way. And I remember that was the first deck where I started investing more money and towards like real cards.
Okay. Not to take us too far back, but you mentioned that when you were first starting the podcast,
Mm.
you were also considering fantasy football as an option.
Yeah, very, very first. Like that was like a real, like we were just kind of shooting the shit kind of a thing.
I happen to have heard from some of our mutual acquaintances and friends that you may have another fantasy type of league going on,
Yeah,
involving the Great British Bake Off.
hell yeah, dude. If you
I'm
if
really curious about what the rules are to that.
that was something Kyle brought, and I think it wasn't even him. I think it was from his partner. They played, and they had played it a number of seasons. So yeah, the whole idea is pretty simple. Quick look is like some like standard questions, and obviously you can make this for whatever. If you watch the Great British Bake Off, it's a great show. It's wholesome. It's good. There's a formula to it, and with that formula, you can kind of make prompts that people can answer. What color will Prue's glasses be today? Right? Will Paul Hollywood give out a handshake? Right? Like how many handshakes? Like, and so who will somebody drop their bake? Right? And so it's questions like that, and then you can assign a point value to that, and like each episode you can get some, and you can it was really fun. We kept it real small. I ran one with Kyle and some friends of ours, and then I also ran it with my wife and some of our friends here locally, and it was a really good time. I can't tell you the last time I actually argued with my wife, but my wife and I got into an argument about what was it about? Was it about the color of her stupid glasses? It might have been about the color of her stupid glasses. I'll be
That's too
honest with you. We
funny.
fought over Prue's glasses. If you know what that mean, what I'm talking about, then you know.
Oh, that is amazing. Sorry for that weird tangent, but
No,
we
it's a
were
good
talking
question.
about the formats you were playing. Outside of CDH, are there any other formats that you are interested in?
Like I've said before, just a bit ago, I do like drafting. I don't draft as much anymore, just because it takes more time, money, and then I end up with a lot of cards I don't need. I have like that was a different conversation I had with my wife about all these cards. I was like, actually, I don't even really use those cards, which actually made was the wrong thing to say, because I really do enjoy drafting, and then I think a real close cousin to it, a close format to it, is Cube. Cube is just like a beast that I want to delve into so much more. I think that the saying that like Cube will outlive Magic is something I fully believe in. Right, like here's this beautiful thing that you can curate to your own needs, wants, play grouped. It's so cool. I really want to build my own kind of commander cube, like that's a little bit more high powered. That's something that's been in the back of my mind for a long time. I know that there's like a major cube event that happens somewhere on the East Coast that I would die, like just love to go to. But like people talking about their cubes is also something that I just enjoy, like listening to and like just hearing them talk about their cube, and then getting them getting to see. Yeah, cube is something I really like, and then I also really like Popper as a format. That's a format I only touch occasionally. I have a oops, kind of like all spells one. This is the cEDH player, right? Um, and
Titus
the
just put that deck together too.
A
did you
budget
really?
version, a budget version, a more budgety version.
Yeah, buddy.
It's pretty consistent.
It's consistent. I mean, MH3 was huge for that play type in general, right? Like that type of deck in general. Like the lands that aren't lands is huge for consistency.
Yeah.
Uh,
Speaking of cubes, did you play any of the powered cube when it was on
A
Arena, or
little
have you
bit.
tried any
I
vintage
did
cube in the
try it
past?
on there. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. I just really like it as a format in terms of like trying to determine what a good card is, right? But like I like that it kind of like shifts how I have to approach it because it's more limited, right? Literally limited. And so you have to kind of evaluate it in that vacuum of that set and how it's going to perform amongst like the relative power of the set as a whole. And I think that's just really kind of neat and really kind of pushes your understanding of the format and then of the game in general. I like that the mechanics are so isolated within that set, right? Like if you like that mechanic, then you're gonna always enjoy like drafting that format. And if you don't, cool, you can kind of leave it and go wait till the next one. I really kind of like that. And it's a good way to kind of get started because everybody kind of like I think everybody kind of starts at an even kind of playing field. There is a little bit of randomness to it, and you can learn to be evaluate good cards and learn how to kind of put that all together in sealed, limited, cube, all of that. I really like that.
Yeah, that's super cool. So you said you would like to build a commander cube for your first cube. Have you taken any steps towards that, or is it just kind of something that you've been kicking around the thought of?
I put in a little bit of work about 2 years ago, when I had a little bit more time before the podcast really kind of we started really getting into it. So I somewhere on Cube Cobra, is that the name of the site? Uh,
I've never,
I think somewhere
I will
on
be
there.
honest, outside of Powered Cube, I've never played a cube, and
Oh,
it's an experience I'd like
Thomas,
to try, but
Thomas. I mean,
yeah.
it's just so it is there is a popper version of it, right? Where I think it's like commons or uncommons that's curated. So you can like find that one and put that one together for relatively cheap overall. And that one is constantly being updated by like kind of like in mass, right? Like there's a giant kind of like group. I think there's a Discord for that one in particular. That one's a fun one. I had a friend locally that put that together, and I thought that was a really fun one. It was cards that we see all the time, and so the power was lower, but it was still really approachable. Yeah, the nice thing about Cube is like you can do with it with whatever you want. So if you want like specific infinite combos, you can put those cards in there, and there's a possibility that that's going to be drafted, and somebody else will maybe see it, and like it can kind of happen. So you can really move that power level wherever you want. And to go back to your question, I think I got as far as like trying to figure out my land base for that one a little bit, like just because lands can really help determine a power level and whatnot. But I knew that with like commander being another kind of caveat to my cube, like it would get a lot more complicated quickly. I think I figured that out, like plus some mana rocks and stuff. I think I wanted to do something of like everybody gets starts with like for me it was like everybody starts with like a jeweled lotus, and that way you can kind of really like play some powerful commanders and then tweak it as you go. So I haven't gotten too far, but now that we're talking about it, I'm like kind of inspired to kind of go back.
Well, now's the time to pick up Jeweled Lotuses. So,
Yeah, they're
Too
cheap.
true.
They're cheap.
yeah,
Don't invest.
relatively.
They're probably not coming back for a while. I don't think.
Cool. So, I know that you touched on it a little bit earlier about how you feel like you might be in a little bit of a corner with your content being targeted towards CDH. Have you considered how you might be able to break out of that, or if you even want to? Because it's not, I don't feel like you've hit your ceiling within CDH by any means.
I don't think we are looking for at least that's a good card to branch out that much. Obviously, if like we got offered something or if somebody brought a good enough idea, we would really consider it. But we just really like cEDH, right? It's kind of all consuming. And I think that we don't necessarily need to branch out too much because I still think that our evaluation for the card still, even though we are very specific cEDH, there's still a lot that you can glean from it for casual, right? Because like all of the positives and negatives of the card are still there, right? I think that casual as a whole is being slower, right? And hopefully getting to at least, turn five, turn six, turn seven. They can afford to play some of these higher cost cards, but like an evaluation of a card being high cost is still a valid argument, right? Like it's really high cost for potentially what it does. And so I think from like comments and whatnot that we get in some of our episodes, it sounds like some people don't even play cEDH and they still kind of consume our content, and like that might be the biggest compliment I can receive from somebody is that they don't even play cEDH, but they really enjoyed the episode and they enjoyed it enough that they're considering cEDH as a format, right? Because let's be honest, it is such a daunting format at times. There's a lot of hurdles to kind of jump through, and on top of it, it can have a bit of a negative connotation associated with it, depending on the stories that people hear and whatnot. But on the whole, for me personally, it's been one of the more wholesome communities I've gotten a chance to be a part of.
Completely agree. And speaking of which, I've had a chance to spend a little time in your Discord, And it is a community that just seems like it's overwhelmingly welcoming and inclusive and positive. Is that something that you and Kyle actively curated, or is that something that kind of just happened naturally?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, there is intentionality behind it. I think Kyle and I are very in agreement overall that we don't need to add to any drama that may or may not happen in the format on its own, right? That stuff kind of happens naturally. And so I think for me at least it's pretty natural to want to be an optimist. I'm an optimist, right? I have a partner who struggles with her mental health at times, and in helping and being a partner for her, I've learned that, oh wow, we are very different. The way we approach something, the way chemically our brains like allow us to approach something is very very opposite of each other, and that's okay. And that my lowest lows are nowhere near her low, like even her high lows, right? And so I'm very much a cup kind of half full kind of a person. And so I feel like I attract a very specific type of person that that wants to kind of be around that kind of energy, right? And it's not that I push like pessimistic people away, but I can see that and go and try to accept people for who they are and like how they kind of want to view things, and that's okay, right? And so we do try to we do try to make sure that the people that are in the community want to be there, want to be engaged. Obviously, if they don't want to like be like discussing in the Discord, that's fine too. But like I think people who come in and are looking to kind of chat and whatnot are kind of naturally inclined towards doing that. I'll be honest with you. I'm I've been on the internet a long time, but I'm a lurker through and through. Like it is very rare for me to make comments or really engage in online conversations of like really any sort, like outside of this. Because of the podcast, I have started leaving comments, but it's not like normally my natural inclination for anything. Even on Instagram, like you can look at my Instagram, it's going to be very like cliche. There will be comments, but like it's just not something enough of a boomer, I guess, now being a little bit older that I it's just with that being said, the Discord has become something I really look forward to engaging with every day. I really enjoy the people in there. I enjoy knowing that I part of my job back before I left the gym was like taking this really scary, dangerous activity in climbing and making it as approachable and as unintimidating as is possible, right? While still being honest with people. Yes, you can get hurt. Yes, you can technically die, right? With all of that being said, this activity is still amazing. And being able to translate that into cEDH and building community here is like, oh, cool. Like this is something I am really good at. Or I will say, like I can create space for people to feel safe and to feel comfortable, and that is something I've gotten better at saying that with pride. Like I can do this, and so yeah, it is a little bit intentional, a little bit natural.
I love that. And I feel you. If you look at my socials, it's just pictures of like the mountains or whatever. I'm not any good at that either.
What are socials?
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, got
Well,
the
we kind of
bed.
have to do it for the content, right? Like the luckily Kyle is younger than me and way more in touch with certain aspects. Because if I was in charge of our socials, oh boy, I was in charge for the gym once. That was a dark time.
I feel you on that. Speaking of being a caregiver, anybody who knows Ya or knows somebody who knows Ya knows that they have some sort of story about a time where they were hanging out with Ya and they needed like a granola bar or a hug or just like a shoulder to cry on. And he was the person who was there to listen to them or lend support. Even people in our Denver scene I have talked
Oh,
to in passing about, oh, that's a good card. And they're like, oh, dude, yeah. Dude supported me when I went to a tournament and I met him, and he was just the biggest, nicest person there. and this is a consistent thing with anybody who you will meet who knows Ya on a face-to-face basis. And I'm just glazing Ya at this point. I don't care. Um,
Thanks.
but do you also have your own support system that you're able to tap into since you've been such a support system for so many people in the CDH community?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's outside of magic for the most part, to be quite honest with you. Right. Like my wife is amazing. Right. My wife is absolutely my ride or die. Like there's no questions about that. I am very blessed to have a relationship with a person that has pushed me towards emotional maturity as much as possible. Um, a story that I actually really like saying and telling people is that this actually happened. Two people did this for me. It was one of those people was my partner, my wife, and then the other person was at the time my assistant director, and there she also happens to be a female, right? And they both independently once around the same time, actually, within a couple of weeks of each other, shared with me in a private conversation that they felt like recently there were certain events that made them feel like I wasn't as big of a supporter of women and strong female leaders as I reportedly say, right? And I think that when you get feedback like that, a natural thing to do is to try to be defensive about it, is to potentially deflect it or whatever it was. And the my immediate thought was like, damn, like that's hard to hear, one. But two, wow, I actually kind of did something right here. Like, if you know these women, they didn't think that there would be actual change. They would just kind of brush it off, right? But the fact that I had created a relationship with them in a way that they felt comfortable and safe enough to tell me this feedback, and it was difficult, right? Especially for my assistant. I was her supervisor, and I could tell she was very nervous. She was very careful with the way she was wording things, but I think that being able to look at her and thank her for the feedback and to have a conversation about it was a real big growth for me, right? And same thing with my wife, right? We had gotten into an argument and we had both stewed for a couple hours or a day, and she gave me that feedback, like, "Hey, look, when you do this, you're not being as supportive of women as you want to be." And again, it was difficult to hear, but like here I was faced with like the a crossroads of like how do I respond, and getting to a point in my life where I could respond with maturity and with humility, knowing that this wasn't easy for them to say. They wouldn't be saying it if they didn't think I could change, was really big. And I think about that a lot, especially when I get into like this community with cEDH and meeting again, I think people are always surprised that I'm older than I look and I present. And for the most part, right, with some of these folks, for the most part, you get people that are pretty established, but every now and then you get some folks that are some of these guys are 20 years my junior, right? And to be able to give them a different look or a different way to potentially respond to and to give empathy, right, is something that I don't know if I really received early on, especially in my 20s. I kind of had to learn the hard way, real hard way. This was not an easy road, but I was able to have really strong mentors, really, really strong mentors through climbing, to be quite honest with you. I also had some kind of examples in my own personal life of like how not to potentially respond, and knowing that I'm the type of person that doesn't need to be told that the stove is hot. Like I can be told and really believe that, which in climbing takes you a long ways, right? It ends up you not dying. And I think honestly, through climbing and unfortunately having to learn really hard lessons or seeing friends learn the ultimate lesson of like, ooh, like I've had friends, I've lost friends in climbing. When you're forced to kind of come to terms with that type of loss in a very tight knit community, you learn really quickly how to make sure you can find healing, but also be a source of healing for others while not detracting. Hopefully, I've answered your question. Something you should know about me that Kyle really keeps in check is that I can go on long diatribes. So you guys need to stop me, especially Titus, who I feel like I've talked all over. I'm sorry.
No, I appreciate you definitely sharing. And, I think these things are important for other people to hear. And, others may have relatable experiences. One of the things that I think that comes up is definitely a self-reflection process where a lot of people, I think, even myself included, sometimes we get self-defense or defensive right away instead of just thinking about why something was brought up or said to us. Sometimes there are people, not always, but there are people with bad intentions, but sometimes people are sharing something honest. And
Yeah.
it can be difficult to bring it up. Some of this stuff is intimidating. So, just having somebody to feel like they're able to share that, I think is also very important. But looking at the community, as a whole, or just even like these events where you go and hang out with other people, feeling like you can go and do that because sometimes like the social events that can be very intimidating for people, especially in a game where it can get intense about rules and interactions.
I know that we can all think of a few players who may be a little overbearing at times, who we've had interactions with. But one of the things that you mentioned there, yeah, that I do think is worth highlighting, even outside, because this doesn't touch as much on magic as much as just a life lesson that I think is always worth reflecting on, is that people who have privilege, whether it's something that you were born with or something that you've grown into, have a responsibility to not just own that privilege, but to use it to bring others up. So, in your case, being a man in a position of power, using your position to help elevate female voices, that is an amazing thing to do, and not just to give lip service to it, but to hear somebody saying, offer criticism towards it, and then being able to repeat that story back, that is a level of self awareness and maturity that is fantastic. And not a lot of people would be willing to tell that story afterwards. Even if they were able to hear that person's words and like grow from them, that's a hard thing to be able to say out loud. And I appreciate that you shared that with us today.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm an overshare. Sometimes I learned about a term called trauma bonding, and I think that's really me sometimes. Um, I don't know. I feel that overall a gift I have is getting people to talk, and I do that by talking a lot and oversharing and sharing about myself, right? I think that there is an openness about me at times that can be very compelling to, especially once I learn to shut up, right? That when you find a spot to actually say something, I'm pretty open, and there's not much I won't talk about or share about myself, just because I think that's the first way to try to break down barriers and get people to open up to you and actually talk. Is to try to at least be the first person to make the move, right? And it does make me nervous at times, but I get better and better, and it becomes easier and easier to be at least a first person to make a move or to at least open up. And I found that that's just where my niche is to be that person. And so it really, thank you so much for sharing with me. I think it is really unique and privileged and special to be able to hear how your impact is, right? And what that impact is amongst people. You hope, right, that your actions lead towards people remembering you, but to be able to hear it is really something special and is not something I take lightly. So thank you so much.
I mean, it's just the truth, and I would be dropping names here if I had talked to them first. Um,
No worries.
so jumping back to Magic a little bit here, you and Titus actually share a bit of a trait on this one. You jump around on decks a lot.
That's right, Titus.
Uh,
You and me.
and
Well,
I,
it's hard to settle, all right?
At this
yeah,
point, I don't even want to, Titus.
but recently I know that you played 50 games on Rogsai.
Yep.
Did you learn anything from brute forcing the deck? And is it something that you'd try again?
I like Rogsai. I like Rogsai a lot more than I thought. I'm not very good at Rogsai. The margins of resources there can be just real tight, right? And I think 50 games on Rogsai is just the starting point, right? It's still very, very beginner. I think the biggest takeaway I had from Rogsai personally is a mulligan with a plan, right? I would much rather have a three with a game plan than a questionable seven, right? First seven, second seven, right? Especially in a deck that rewards kind of aggressive play. I didn't ever really want to sit with just a kind of a, if you're sitting into like blue farm in second seat, some other mid range deck, and then another potential slightly faster deck, and you just sit down and settle into a mystic and risk or ristic game plan. Sometimes that's great, but like overall in that deck I felt like rewarded my aggressiveness more than not. And so I think in that deck I went down to two once or twice. Maybe I shouldn't have, but at the same time, it kind of got rid of that fear for me of like I'll go down to five, like no problems in almost any deck now. Like it is a very comfortable thing to do. I'll start worrying if I have to go down past five. You don't want to go down to like to four or three, but like I do recommend folks play, especially if you're like more of a stacks player. Occasionally, just go on to the other side. Like I'm now trying to pick up a deck. I'm now playing Rogthras a little bit, and I got into the deck thinking that it would be a little bit more control, right? Because I don't play control that well. It's not, at least according to Sam Black, it's not.
That's a turbo deck.
He plays that pretty turbo. It's pretty it can have a lot of control elements, right? It can draw so many cards that you get a lot of like counter magic. But I think that it is a pretty turbo deck, and it's been fun. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm blown away by how much more I enjoy it than I thought I would.
Yeah, Rockfast is a fun deck. One thing I do want to touch back on, and it's the mulligans.
Mm.
One thing that I think is really underrated just in general in Magic is mulliganing, especially in Commander, is the single most broken mechanic because you get to see more of your deck than you're going to see in the rest of your game unless you rip an ad nause.
Yeah.
I routinely will go down to a four. I don't actually get worried until I go down to three in most
Yeah.
decks.
Yeah.
I think a good four is better than a mediocre seven in 90% of my decks,
Mm.
even in like terrible colors like Bant. So I'm a big proponent in mulliganing aggressively, especially if you have a deck that can win on turn one or turn two. So I love that. That's something that you took away from that.
I think mulligans are important. I do think it's somewhat contextual on the deck or maybe the list that you're playing. One of the things with just playing, and there's a reason why the channel's called Everyone's Bad at Magic, but one of the commanders that I like is Vivien Nitir. That might be more iconic character than actual commander, but within that, I think you have to look at certain hands and kind of like what you were both were saying is what is your game plan, right? And why you're going so low. But sometimes I feel like with certain builds, you might not be able to go that low unless you're just forced to.
Agreed.
Yeah, 100%.
I agree.
So Rogthras is a very fun deck, but despite the fact you've been jumping around, do you think that you have a signature deck over the years?
Oh, jeez. I was just checking here because I have I think as of recent as of this year, I have now played, let's see here. When I say I jump around, I have played 31 decks.
Whoa.
31. And
This
by
year?
no, not this year.
Oh,
In
okay,
total, since
okay,
I
okay.
started, like 31 decks I've played at least like 4 or 5 games on. There are, I didn't even count the games that decks that I put together, played 2 games, and then I immediately got rid of because it wasn't what I thought. So I have 31 decks that I played to put together right now. 1, 2, 3, 4. I might have like 6 or 7 cEDH decks put together right now. Please don't tell my wife. I hope she's not listening. She's not listening to this. Yeah, I have like 8 or 9 put together. The I don't have a specific deck. The color that I really gravitate towards is definitely Mardu. In general, Mardu or Rakdos. I've had like 2 Mardu decks right now. No, technically I have 3 Grixis decks put together right now. Kefka, Rogsai, and then like a Malcolm Vile put together. So I guess maybe it is Grixis. Maybe it's a Grixis pile. I don't know. I've like Kyle really wants me to pursue Kefka more. I think he thinks that it's a really good commander that's probably. I mean, it's very popular right now. I have really enjoyed that. I think the Grixis shell is just really good. But I don't know. I feel like for so far, Rogthrast for me has been very. How do I put this? Rogthrast has been very forgiving. I feel like when you're on in Grixis, you can go very fast, but if you the faster you go, it's at the cost of sometimes resources, right? And so sometimes I found myself just missequencing and then coming up with like one pip short. Literally, I've probably had like 5 or 6 games that I could have won, but I just went down so low or went for a push a little too soon, and I was short one pip. I'm almost positive I have 6 or 7 games where I was one pip short of actually pulling it off. With Rog Thras, I could make a push, and it just makes an abundance of mana that I can dump towards make like card draw. That it was like, even if I messed up so far, it's like it's okay. Here's like 2 more mana that you forgot about. Like, let's just and it was rebate. Like, there's a rebate on it. So here's like 2 more. And so that excess of like resources like really can kind of make up for mistakes here and there, even though sequencing is really important in that deck to like to maximize the amount of resources that you have.
Why like those Thrasios plus decks and like Kinnan is just
So
your margins are just a mile wide.
It almost sounds like you like more proactive or aggressive game plans. Have you ever played like a more controlling list or
I've tried. I mean, Marnius Calgar was probably the most I tried to play control. I went through a little bit of a Marnius stint for a while, just Esper as a whole. I played Tivit for a little while as well, like Tivit first, when Tivit was first around, and like actually got a good number of games on that deck. And I think that color pie kind of forces a little bit more of control. I think Kyle will say this sometimes, but like when I was piloting Magda, I probably piloted that one way more controlled than not. I did a lot of like kind of draw pass and then wait, because like they trying to win on top of somebody is a little bit easier when you're just looking to activate. And then if it was like, oh, like I can't actually push now, I need to like bring out a God Pharaoh statue or Portal to Phyrexia instead. I played that deck a little bit more of as control than not, but not in a very traditional way. But you're right, Titus. I am very much a proactive player. I want to spend my resources, and I want to tap things and like put spells on stack. Like that's just who I am. Like VV, I have a VV. No, it's not in front of me. I have a VV deck put together right now as well. It is a very fun storm deck.
have you tried Realm Monsoon Mage?
Played it once or twice. A friend put it together. That one I feel like I just need to learn the mulligans, right? Like the variant I played was on like 12 lands or something like that back then, but it was on a variant when they were on like I don't know, maybe it's not that low. I don't know, maybe it was that low actually. I'm not sure. It was it
17 lands with MDFCs
right. Yeah,
is
it was probably like
roughly where it
12 and
is.
then like 17 with MDFCs. And it's you that's a deck that I think you can mulligan really low for. With a game plan still, right? Like try to start storming off and cantripping into more spells. It is not one I've played yet, just because I think I was like more. It's the better deck than VV. I'm almost sorry, VV players, but
Yeah, it
It is.
is.
it is. But I don't know. VV is just fun to me.
Yes. I'm gonna stay with it, keep tweaking it. Thomas got me a playmat, so now I'm even more committed. And yeah, I think there's a place for it, if you want to go a little bit slower. Right now, I'm trying to probably I think one of the things I've appreciated about some people trying out stuff is just not always staying with like a standard build and like looking at maybe including like how Ian was playing around with stock up and
Yeah.
impulse and maybe more effects like that, such as I think like anticipate, maybe just playing a little bit like slower, see what kind of cards you come into. What's typically your game plan when you play it?
My list is definitely more mid range than turbo. It can kind of go fast, but I'm not playing Dragonstorm. I want to be playing Dragonstorm. I want to be quite honest with you. I do want to. My list has a lot of like ways to kind of combo off through nibs. I play both nibs, Nib Visionary and Nib Mizzet Perun, right? The way I like to play the deck, I don't like playing the VV out until I can play it with a some kind of free spell or like
Yeah.
a one cost spell, right? If it's like get VV down and pass, I don't really like being there for that, especially if I don't have a way to protect VV before my turn. So I play it naturally a little bit slower and a little bit more control because I on the turn I go off, I want to be able to at least make a lot of mana so that if they remove it VV on that turn, I have made enough mana to recast VV if need be. And if they don't, then I can. I love being able to hardcast Niv Perun, right? And they go, oh, and it's like, yeah, being able to hardcast that turn 2, turn 3 sometimes is insane. And so I try to play that a little bit slower just because you have so many spells and patience on that deck, I think is the name of the game. But, I think that the one thing I was going to say about VV versus like Rao is like Rao took, I think there was a couple of very dedicated pilots, but it took a little while, right? Because like Rao was released in Bloomborough,
Modern Horizons 3.
Modern Horizons 3, which was last year, a year and a
Year
half
and a half
ago.
ago at this point.
It took like a year and a half. Like I feel like it was definitely around, but it wasn't like exploded onto the scene until these like last 6 months.
We had a local who's been playing it the whole time, and they've been cooking the whole
Right.
time.
But even then, it's
Yeah,
not like the greater, not the greater meta as a whole. Like, and so taking like the full, like some of these decks just take time. I do still think that Varel will be better, but I think
yeah.
giving time to like let these some of these like we're just getting so much product, right? Like
Hear me out. For VV, is anybody playing the End Stone? Because I feel like that card would be insane in
if
VV.
I can get a copy of one, I would, but I don't have a copy of one yet. But yes, I'm with you, Thomas. I'm with you.
Okay, cool. I want my cope to be public on that. I feel like that card is underplayed in our format. Yes, it's 7 mana, doesn't win you the game, but it kind of does.
It's like Song of Creation, right? With less
Yeah.
downside, technically.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
It's like Song of Creation with less downside.
And you don't have to be playing Teamer. So that's like better.
Arguably, yes, I agree.
Going back kind of like to the channel, I do really appreciate it because it sounds like it's not just that's a good card, it's weighing the pros and the cons. And while it does kind of focus on card analysis, you can look at how that fits into your build. Like, what are your intentions? And I do think kind of what was brought up earlier was that can translate to casual commander as well when you're deck building, when you're looking at what cards you want to include, and just like even like getting a functional game plan, maybe like an underplayed ramp package or something like that.
No, for sure. I think like one of the big things we talk about, especially about with cards that are difficult to potentially like slot in, is some cards are easy slam dunks. With a card like a Downey or a Talon Gates, right? Like for the most part, those are like pretty easy, not too difficult to. I mean, maybe Talon Gates, but like that card is so powerful, and it's still a land at the end of the day, right? But at the same time, some cards you really have to go. Ooh, can I afford to do this? Right? We at this point, yeah, Scheming Symmetry has been released, right? A card like that, it's not an easy slam dunk card. I do think that card is good, but I think that you do have to evaluate like, am I potentially savvy enough to politic Titus into um, actually grabbing a counter spell for Thomas's turn, right? Like, can I trust him enough, right? And can I make sure that I use my words well here? Like, hey, I have a scheming cemetery. I'm going to tutor interaction. Titus, can you also tutor interaction, right? And having a card like that forces you towards maybe a play style or a skill set that you don't necessarily have, you have to do that with intention, right? And so I'm glad that you picked that up. Like it is sometimes like, yes, this card is cool, but like, does that necessarily fit my overall game plan or a plan that can, again, at the end of the day, just kind of win me the game, right? for Thomas's like the end stone, 7 mana is a lot, and I would expect to try to win pretty much now, right? If I'm going to invest 7 mana into something like that, even though it is, and I agree with him, completely fun, right? Like it is going to potentially net you a lot of gain, but you kind of do have to evaluate that and then evaluate on top of it. Am I on an adnaz, right? Am I going to get donked for 7 damage when I inevitably flip into this, right? There's just a lot of things that at the end of the day you want to consider beyond the arguments that we make on the podcast.
I did like it in the context of Commanders where you were giving a point basis for the card and he brought up Glarb and it's like 9.
Yeah, that one's good. I mean, in the commander that's about to be released, right? Maryland,
Oh my
the
Yes,
goodness.
fairy elf.
I want to brew that deck.
It's such an easy include, right? It doesn't even matter. You don't even have to have political savvy. I'm casting for 1 black. I'm casting a scheming symmetry. Sweet, no responses. Sweet. I target Thomas. It does. I don't even care. Thomas. I actually want Thomas to get something good, right? Like I don't want a land on top, right? Um, because for 1 black mana, Maryland makes it real easy to then just cast a blue. What is it?
Fairy or
Fairy,
elf?
Fairy Elf Seeker, Fairy Seeker. Like I get to scry. I'm going to keep that card on top, and I get your Thomas's card. Like that's oh man, that's really good.
Chef's kiss.
You should include that.
Oh man, that's gonna be such a fun deck. I
I think
wonder
so
if that's
too.
gonna see play in our in CDH.
there's always somebody that will try something.
Yep. All right. Well, we're getting towards our time. Do you have any final questions today, Titus?
Thank you, yeah, for all the conversation. Definitely appreciate it. But what is one of the favorite cards you reviewed on the channel?
Ooh, that's a good question. A card I personally really like. I try to play as much as I can. I'm trying to find the foil for it because I like the card so much. Is Orim's Chant. It's a card. I don't know why. Like I'm not even like I play white, but I like Mardu, but like it's just a card that I really like. I like the art. It was a card we covered early. I think at the time Kyle told me that it like he didn't think it was a good card, but now jump like almost a year and a half later to hear other people on different other podcasts say that, hey, look, Orange Chant, pretty good card. It's like it's a silence effect that we want. They can really save the game or let you win. It isn't silence, so you still have a silence back up, right? Even though it's targeted, and every now and then, the kicked orange chant where people can't attack does come into play, right? Like that is a thing that just occasionally is like cool finale of devastation, whatever it is. And if somehow they can't counter it, like they don't get to attacks, right? And like that doesn't, they can't win the game. But Orm Chant is probably my card that I really like. I still think about it. I'll be honest with you, I don't always remember every card that we've covered. Like it's sometimes I have to go yes, and then I'm scrambling to my YouTube page and go yes, that was that. Yeah, that's a card we covered. Orange Champ, I still remember. I still remember my arguments for it. And I really like that card.
I really like that card too. It saved my life many a times.
Yep.
I cut Ranger Captain for that card in
Whoa.
a couple of
Hot
decks.
take. Oh, hot take. That's Vice.
See, it's really a good card, but
Have you run into the case where you've made an argument for or against a card, and then a prominent member of the community, like comedian or Logan, somebody who's very highly rated and has a lot of clout, has come out with an opinion that contradicts yours? It's become conventional wisdom in the community after the fact.
Actually, no, I don't think. Not that I'm like familiar with per se. I mean, if there was even that would be a really good like kind of like opportunity for us to reach out to them and go, hey, let's have a discussion on this and like let's hash it out. Because like at the end of the day, here's the thing: I don't mind being wrong, right? Like this game is so complex. This game is so difficult at times. We all get things wrong. We misread things. Like I misread things after I've covered a card and like talked about it for an hour and a half. Um, And so for us to be wrong, like that's normal. I'm like really okay with that as well. I think that that's the other thing about the podcast and like having being happy with the success that we have and or don't have is it's a game. And I'm still talking to a good friend about Magic at the end of the day, and other people enjoy listening to us. And so it's okay to be wrong, and hopefully it at the end of the day, where I'm happier that there might be conversation about it, right? And that we're trying to potentially push things towards the direction that we all want to be, which is just like people playing tight games, having a lot of fun, and um, doing what we all love doing, which is arguing at the end of the day, arguing about who's right or wrong about a silly card. Like that's fine with me.
I love that.
That would also mean that I'm like at all on potentially that person's radar. I mean, in Ian's case, like yes, he knows who we are, and I really like Ian. Ian's great. If he wanted to, like come argue the point, like that would be a lot of fun.
That's awesome. All right, Titus, you got anything else?
I was gonna bring up, did you cover Bayance yet? We have all these silence effects growing.
um, I am trying to butter up Kyle. I'm trying to make sure that we cover a bunch of other cards, and that way I can hit him with like, "Hey, we haven't covered a white card in a while," and then he goes, "Yeah, yeah, we haven't." I'm like, okay, cool, it's my turn. How about abeyance? And
Well,
I'll
you
let you
heard
know how
here
that goes.
first.
But
Nice.
Titus, I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm looking for a deck to run this in. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Like I'm with you on this one. Uh,
Awesome. Well, yeah, is there anything you'd like to plug today?
at the end of the day, we all are bad and can be bad or will be bad about at Magic in some capacity, and that's okay. All we want to do is try, and sometimes it's the cards that we play, sometimes it's not. That's okay. But if you want to talk more or hear my voice some more, or don't want to hear my voice some more, that's a good card. It's a good place to be. Good podcast, and then give these guys a like and a subscribe. Tell your friends, listen to it, leave it on repeat while you when you go to sleep. Help them out.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Absolutely.
If you
Thanks
stayed
for
with
having
us
me.
this long, please consider giving us a like, follow, or subscribe, and comment depending on how you found us. Check out our socials below. Also, congratulations to Synergistic RXN on winning the giveaway from last
Ooh.
week. We'll be in touch and send you that Urza Saga.
Hot.
Be kind to yourselves, be kind to each other. It's just a game.